Welcome to the Heart of Real Estate podcast with Mike McFarland and Steven Salinas with the Mortgage Mike Group. On the podcast, Mike and Steven discuss with top producing real estate agents what makes them successful, unique, and purpose-filled. Each episode holds a key to unlocking a door to financial freedom.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey everybody.
Welcome to the Heart of Real Estate podcast. My name is Steven Salinas, and I got my partner here,
Mike McFarland.
Yep. Yeah. And we host this podcast out of the Houston area. If this is your first time listening, we are so glad you're here. This podcast was created for you, for you to learn and to grow and to just become, better at your craft.
Yeah.
This is for real estate professionals. So whether you're a real estate professional or you know someone, send this to them. I'm sure they would love to hear about it. But I'm excited. Are you excited, Mike?
I'm excited. And like Steven, part of what we do is bring people together, right? Bringing people together is our tagline.
That's our tagline, bringing people together.
Right. So just bringing people together, across all facets of real estate industry, where we can share and help each other grow in service to our clients. So, yeah. So you're listening to the right podcast if you love one, first off, if you it's Women's History Month and that you care about Women's History Month, we have the best guest possible. That invests in the women in our community, spends so much time and effort pouring into the women entrepreneurs. No, I believe it's Shelly. We'll get into it. Let's introduce our guest, and then we'll dive right in because this is perfect. I mean, I think whether you've been thinking about serving your community or whether you're serving, I think this is just an awesome example of like how to give back. Well, in your foundation too.
Amazing foundation.
Amazing foundation for business and service into the community. So we have a special guest, Shelly Green with Anchored Properties.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I really am honored. I'm nervous, but I'm honored to be here. So I appreciate the opportunity. And I love that you guys are connecting with people and just hearing stories. You mentioned Women's History Month. Today is Women's International Day. I don't know how long this has been like a thing, but it's a thing.
I love it.
But, definitely like from a kingdom mindset is kind of where I'm coming from, because we have a lot of worldly things, a lot of women's empowerment and self-empowerment. And, my goal is that women are empowered through their faith, through the Holy Spirit empowerment and just their calling and just stepping into what the Lord has for them. So I guess it is Anchored Women Entrepreneurs. That is something that I started to I was looking for a mentor in real estate. I was looking for a woman in business to guide me, like, how do you market properties? How do you, make ads? How do you pay your taxes? Just basic practical things. I was looking for a woman in business, and it was very difficult to find that. And when you find a successful woman, she's busy and she's doing a whole lot of things. And so it's very hard to have someone to mentor you in those areas. And so I just started praying, like, God, send me a woman in business that's going to mentor me, that's going to help me, that's going to give me ideas. And I specifically remember him just pressing in my spirit, like, be that. And I'm like, but I need help. I don't know.
Wait, you need to send me somebody.
Yes, send me someone.
No. I don't think you understand.
So I really literally was just like, okay. And I was just obedient. Like, how do I do that? And he has just opened doors, opened opportunities, brought people in. And that's just continued to grow. And all of that sort of stemmed from other things I had tried. So I was a school teacher. I know y'all have had like a million school teachers on here, but
it's a common theme of great real estate agents. We love it.
I was a school teacher and I got into house flipping. So before I had a real estate license, my husband and I were buying and investing properties and flipping properties.
Great.
And that just kind of was like a fun project, but we didn't really know what we were doing. I mean, we made a lot of mistakes. We learned from a lot, but we started realizing like we have to connect. In order to build that business, you have to connect with other people, other investors, other agents. It's not a solo mission. You need a team. You need good contractors. You need
it's a big deal.
It was like, yes, that was the one thing is like build your team. Like everybody wants to invest. Everybody wants to be a house flipper. But if you don't have a team, you're not going to do it very long. You're not going to be very successful. So we had to connect. And that was hard because I'm a little introverted and I was used to being a school teacher in my classroom, in my sheltered little bubble. And so having to go outside of that and try something new I'd never done before. I had no experience. And then actively like just begging for people to teach me because the teacher in me wanted to learn. Like I felt like it's important to be educated on what you're doing. And how are you going to show anybody else what to do if you don't know what you're doing? So, that's kind of where I led into becoming an agent because I wanted to know, what does the contract say? What does it mean? What am I signing? How do I find properties?
Right.
So it sort of started with Anchored Restorations, which was me and my husband with investing. And then I started building a real estate team. Anchored Properties Group is kind of the next step because I started bringing in other people into that team because I realized the opportunities and the doors that real estate opens up for you that I'd never known. I mean, I taught for 14 years. That's what I knew. But even in that, I didn't have a real financial education. I didn't really understand the wealth that real estate can build and bring. And I just never knew that was even, you get comfortable. You get comfortable in what you're doing and what you're good at, and you don't see other opportunities. So when I saw the different doors that were opening through real estate that I didn't even know existed, even more than investing, I wanted to bring other people into that. So I started telling people like, you should do this. And I would have people say, you probably have a lot of people say this too, but, I was thinking about getting my real estate license. And I just kind of laugh now. I'm like, prove it. Cause so many people say it, but not very many people do it.
Right.
And when they actually do it, it's not what they thought it would be because it requires some work and
just a little bit,
some diligence, some stick-to-itiveness, because
so
you've got to be diligent in that.
Mm-hmm.
So then Anchored Properties Group then I went into Anchored Women Entrepreneur because then it was more about mentoring and helping other women to see that they too can be successful. They can build a business. I think women cancel themselves out a lot, because we're busy and family comes first. And maybe they, like me, don't have the same financial opportunities or backgrounds. And so just learning, that traditional lending and all the no's that you get don't work with investing.
Right.
So, you got to do some digging. You got to reach out to that team that you're building and get some help and find some resources and just be diligent in that. So that's all things anchored. There's a lot of things.
There's a lot in there. Yeah. Well, and I don't want to, I want to cover, because I think this is great because as you transition from restoration into real estate, right? Getting your license, you told us the story that you had a pretty good year. Your first year, you didn't even think much about it. And there's the awards, and I don't think you're even planning on going to the awards, right?
No.
Yeah.
I did not want to go. I was with a really big brokerage. And one thing I loved about them was that they did celebrate. They celebrated their agents. So, you could be a top producer or whatever, and maybe you just sold one property. But,
right. Which could happen.
Yeah. So I think I never really had that celebrating these little wins. You just go through life just working hard and you don't stop to sort of celebrate or reflect on the things you have done, and I mean, maybe we avoid that because we don't want to be prideful or something, but it truly is important to celebrate things too. I feel like you need to you need to be able to see how far you've come because it sort of fuels you to keep going. But we were at an awards and it was the annual awards and I really wasn't planning on going. And it's like, there's going to be so many people there and I don't really want to go.
And you're the introvert. So
yeah. And so I was like, I don't really know. And so I actually talked a friend into going with me because you could take a guest. And so that made it easier, right? Because you can have a friend go with you. So I took a friend with me and we get in there and, you know, we went like right before it started. We didn't want to have a lot of time to have to talk. So it showed up kind of at the last minute. There were no seats available. And I was like, kind of a like, oh my gosh, this is why I didn't want to come. Like I have nowhere to sit. There was like literally 2 seats for us in the back of the room in the sun. Like it was hot. It was... Anyway, I was like, I kind of regretted like bringing my friend. I'm like, I don't know why I made you come. I'm so sorry. We're like sitting back here. Most of the food was already gone. Like we're sitting in the back. We were sitting with a major real estate team. I think they had like 30 agents. And here I am just like this little new rookie of like one party of one. Like, do you care if I sit, you know, here? Am I in the way? And they were like, no, it's fine, you know, and they were getting a lot of awards. And so they were getting called up and stuff. And then of course, we get to kind of independent agent rewards. And I'd gotten called up for a couple of things and just numbers and sales volume. And I was thinking, you know, sales volume in real estate is not like what you bring home.
Right.
You know, when they're like, you're a multi-million-dollar agent. I'm like, where is that in the commissions? You know?
Right.
But I was like, okay, like that's a cool award. Like, okay, I got something. Like at least my friend's time isn't wasted. And, when they got to Rookie of the Year, you know, we had this new agent and, you know, he was 28 and he was crushing it. Like he was just door knocking. I mean, he was just doing all the things that they say, like, this is your formula for success. Do all these things. And he was not scared. He was just killing it. And so everybody just kind of assumed he was going to be the Rookie of the Year. And I'm like, me too. Like, he's doing great. Yeah. And when they called the Rookie of the Year, they called me. I'm like, I was stunned. I was like, do you need to like redo those numbers? Like,
right. Hang on.
I'm like, I don't believe this.
Wait
like,
a second.
I don't think that's right. And,
wow.
You know, my friend with me, she's crying because she's like, I just am so proud of you. And, you know, that friend is Alicia. And now she's, you know, my lead buyer's agent. And so that was before she was in real estate. And again, I think it just shows you like, you can do great things. Like,
you empowered her. In
a big way.
And seeing you go up there.
Yeah.
So that was a surprise. I was not expecting that.
So
I'm not surprised.
Here, your first year, you have no idea that you're a successful agent. You're just doing what you're doing. And then the brokerage you're with says, hey, you've done great. And I think was it right about then or before? Because you didn't, you're so unconventional in the way that you, I think, process and just go, or I don't want to say unconventional. I just think you're brave and you're courageous. That's probably better. Because you immediately said, I'm going to start a team or I'm going to have a group, right? I mean, we're year one and most people think about, wow, that'll be 5 years down the road or 3 or you didn't wait.
No, my thoughts were when I thought about building a team was like, I need help because I really, truly enjoyed the investing and the flipping, which takes a lot of time. And, you know, when you're learning all these things, real estate, like all these, you should lead generate, I'm like, I don't have time for that. Like, that's not what I do. And I'm smart enough to know, like, there are people who can do things better than me. So I started thinking, like, who could I bring in that would be great at this? Who would be great at lead generating? Who would be great at meeting with people? Who wants to go network? Because I'm like, I might go to one a year. Right. You know, like that's just not my thing. And so, you know, I started thinking about who could I bring in that would be of value, that would continue to grow Anchored and I also felt like I was not servicing my clients the best because even though being a house flipper brings a value that a lot of agents don't have, because I can go over an inspection report with you and I can tell you, hey, this is a big deal. This is not a big deal. This is very costly. This isn't. Let me connect you with someone who can fix that for you. Right. There's a lot of things I can bring from that side that are a benefit. But the other side of it, all of just the things that go with it, you know, the checking in with lenders, checking in with title, paperwork, those kind of things. I'm like, who would be really good at just loving on our clients and just to grow in that way too. I just was thinking forward vision, not just for today, but how, if I'm going to grow, how do I prepare that? Like, how do I build a foundation that promotes growth? Because if I'm trying to do it all myself, then I'm not really helping anybody. So I just started bringing in, well, I say that I do feel like, the Lord has brought people into my team. I feel like it's been divine connections. It's been least likely people. And they've all been new agents, which is a challenge all in itself. Cause I'm like, I'm a new team leader. We're with a new brokerage this is her first time being a broker. We are trailblazing in all areas because we don't know what we're doing, but we're trying,
you're doing it.
It's just taking those steps towards something bigger and greater that I feel that we're just called to do. So,
so true.
So that's kind of how the team came into play, but now they're sort of, they're growing too. I mean, for me, it was like, I used to say things, I know this sounds terrible, but I was like, I'm not a salesperson. I mean, like, I don't feel like a salesperson. I am a teacher. Like, I can teach you, I can show you. I don't feel like a salesperson. And I just learned really quickly through that, just, our words are powerful. And when I kept speaking, I'm not a salesperson, I was sort of like giving myself confidence issues. Like, I'm not good enough to do that. I shouldn't be here. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I changed that to, I no longer say I'm not a salesperson. I am of service. I'm not a salesperson, but I can find someone to help service what you need.
Yeah.
And, the fun thing about real estate and from an investing standpoint is it's problem solving. That's all it is. Like, if you have to move and you got to sell this house to get to this house and you got to, add this fund from this fund, like, let me help you solve that problem. Let me show you another way you didn't think of. And, that's been really cool too, because you're not really selling. I'm not trying to sell you. I'm trying to figure out how we can solve a problem so that you can benefit financially and functionally.
Right. God's economy is built on service, and service comes in that form. And so service is sales at some level, right? Without the moniker of like, I'm in sales. Really, we are in service. We're in service to the clients that we get to, that the Lord blesses us with.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think you're in service to the women that are around you, and specifically in your group. And we talk about Alicia, and I just seen her in the last year, seen what the difference that real estate has made in her life and her family, just hearing it and some of the stories she shared. And it's like, wow, this is big. This is massive life impact, and you have helped to empower that. And that's really amazing. Like, you're making an impact in the world. You're making an impact in the kingdom.
Wow.
And that's really
no pressure.
Really great.
Yeah, no pressure.
No, but I mean, that is my goal. Even in building a team, it was never a goal of like, I'm going to be this top producing team. That was never the goal. And the goal was to show others that they can grow, they can meet goals, they can set goals, they can try things. And I think you said earlier, like, I have courage or something. No, I do. You're right. It's probably courage, because I do it afraid. I do a lot of things. I mean, I tell myself all the time, I can do hard things. And there's a lot of prayer with that, a lot of just trusting the Lord's direction in that. And, what has he called me to do? And am I in his will, or am I trying to do things myself? Because we're really quick to try to control and fix and help. And, even if it comes from a good place, like, am I doing it for him or am I doing it for me? And so then really just going back to what's going to please him first and foremost, and then talking with him. And, that's a big change even in my life, just building a business as an entrepreneur, is you are seeking him in everything. there is no steady salary. There is no like comfort level. I know that that's a myth we create even in a regular job, because you can be laid off. You know, COVID taught us all sorts of things. So I think that's sort of a myth. But when you are literally down to nothing, or you've invested your last dollar into a property and you're like, I've got to sell this to feed my family, and you get a cash offer and it closes, it's like things that you're like, I could never have done that on my own. Like, that was the Lord. And I've just seen that time and time again. He's teaching me to trust him in those things, and he provides the opportunities and he brings the wealth. And I mean, there's so many stories like where we've gotten things to the dollar, like things we needed, whether it was earnest money or closing funds, and sometimes like the day of, you know, little just miraculous things that he's just proving like he is faithful. And when we are faithful and obedient, there's blessing in that. And our hashtag for our team, if you want to call it a hashtag, our line or whatever, is blessed to be a blessing. And the truth is, that's exactly our foundation, is that, you know, we are blessed, but it's not for ourselves. It's to bless others. So when we are blessed from a property, you know, that goes right into something else. That goes into another property, that goes into our team. It goes into Anchored Women. It's going somewhere. It's being invested somewhere. And, you know, those are eternal impacts.
Right.
Which are much more important than just the temporary, because that money is going to be gone next week.
Sure is. Right. Yes. It goes quick.
I've got a question, Shelly. I know like there's all these kind of like empowerment things out there, and all like, you know, all these things that you can look for motivation from place to place. And I know you have, like, with the foundation you have, like, maybe for the person that's listening, that's a woman in the industry or maybe in business, it's just feeling like a lack of motivation. They're just feeling tired, or they don't believe in themselves. What's like an encouragement, kind of like an encouragement that you would share at Awe? What are the things that you're saying, and how have you kind of seen the difference in the people?
So I feel like it sort of has evolved. You know, when we first started Awe, it was because I wanted a mentor. I felt like I needed to be a mentor. And so I started with what I knew, things I had gone through that I could pass along. You know, for the Women's History Month, the theme for 2023 is to celebrate the women who tell our stories. And, you know, I feel like anything we've been through is not for us, it's for others. And so when I share my stories, my hope is that other women connect with that. And so when I started Awe, it was really like, I was very honest about, I didn't have a woman supporting me in business. The women in my life who I love and have around me were not in business. There were very few women that I was personally connected to that were in business. And so for me, I mean, because I came from a background of teachers, they're all teachers, which is a business. I mean, you're running a classroom, you're managing your family. Planning. It's all a business. But specifically when it came to real estate, I felt like in real estate, you have more women in a career of real estate, starting a business, than say, you know, in other areas. Yeah. So in real estate, I was able to connect with more women regarding real estate. And so when we started Awe, it was more about stepping out in faith, really. It was like, you can do this. You can start a business. You know, we had all these ideas. I mean, every woman I've ever met with, they have an idea. And I truly feel like God gives us that idea in our heart. And so, you know, you have to pray about it. It grows, it changes. You know, you might think it looks one way and it actually looks another way, but you got to get your feet moving. You know, you can dream, you can wish, you can set goals, but if you're not taking action towards them, it's, you know, you're holding yourself back. And so the first year I felt like it was about that, stepping out in faith. And we actually had I would say we probably had like 50 members who had come to just networking events. And we had 8 new businesses started that year.
Wow.
I don't want to say it's directly because of all, but it was our members, you know, and so I felt like not only was it giving them that message or that encouragement, but it was the community around them. I started seeing God was like connecting dots. So I would have these women and I could connect somebody who was making, you know, web designs to someone who was starting a podcast. Yeah. And so they were able to help them design graphics for it. And I just kind of started seeing the fruit of it by connecting other people, not even necessarily me or anything I did, but hey, I know someone who does this. I can connect you with someone who helps with that. And so it was able to start, they were connecting, not even necessarily through me. And then the next year, you know, it was more about giving them practical tools, because what I learned is like some women didn't know how to schedule a calendar. I mean, I had a girl one time, she's like, show me how to budget.
Like,
you know,
okay.
Like I was thinking practical tools, like how to manage your time, how to be diligent. And not only that, but in God's way. Applying biblical principles to your calendar, applying, you know, not just working yourself to death on the daily grind, but actually integrating rest and trust and, you know, just looking at how to do business God's way, putting biblical principles into everyday practical ways to manage your business.
Thank you for listening to the Heart of Real Estate podcast. If you found this episode thought-provoking and helpful, do us a favor and share it with 2 of your friends. Also, feel free to leave any comments or reviews. And if you want to learn more about the Mortgage Mike Group, reach out. We'd love to connect.